Illegally refined automotive gas oil, ARGO. Commander of NNS Pathfinder, Commodore Kajethan Nabuchi Anyako, disclosed this in a statement he personally signed. He said an additional 33,000 liters of kerosene were destroyed during the operation, which was carried out on May 12, 2025. Commodore Nabuchi Anyako explained that the Tactical Riverine Assault Squadron team uncovered two wellheads that had been technically connected with pipes, allegedly used by oil thieves to siphon crude oil to their camps. He noted that the recovered products were handled in line with anti-crude oil theft procedures, adding that no arrests were made as the suspects fled upon sighting the Naval Patrol team. The NNS Pathfinder commander commended his personnel for their bravery and reiterated the Nigerian Navy's commitment under the leadership of Vice Admiral E.I. Ogala to combating crude oil theft and illegal bunkering, which he described as significant threats to Nigeria's economy and energy security. A consultant hematologist at the River State University Teaching Hospital, RSUS, Professor Kaladada Koribo, says different diseases require different components of blood for effective treatment. Speaking during a one-day capacity building workshop for healthcare professionals held at the hospital, Professor Koribo explained that the outdated practice of transfusing whole blood to patients can lead to overload and pose unnecessary risks. She emphasized that with component blood therapy, patients now receive only the specific blood components needed for their condition.
When you give mostly whole blood, you are giving things that the person doesn't need. So, for example, if somebody has low platelets, it takes 4 to 6 units extracted platelets to form 1 unit of platelet concentrate. So that means that if you are not separating, you are going to give person 6 whole units of blood. That's too much. It can cause overload for the patient. There are just a lot of unnecessary hazards that the patient is being exposed to when the patient is receiving whole blood instead of component therapy.
Professor Koribo highlighted that one of the major benefits of component blood therapy is that a single unit of donated blood can be used to treat up to 3 different patients, depending on their specific medical needs. She further noted that since blood is a scarce resource, producing blood components allows for more efficient management, reducing waste and ensuring better outcomes for patients.
Different types of diseases that will need different aspects of the blood. So we have the 2 machines. One machine can collect only the part of the blood that is needed from the donor. The other machine, that one, after whole blood is donated, they put it in this machine. The machine will now separate it into parts. The importance of this is that 1 unit of blood can now be used for 3 different people based on the diseases that you are trying to treat.
You're listening to the World News on Today95.1 FM, Voice of the People. After the break, more news, foreign and sports stories. Stay with us.
Every day, every hour, when the big stories break, depend on our 24-hour news team to bring you the latest. Today, 95.1 FM.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying tuned. The Senate has launched an investigative hearing into the implementation of the federal character principle in public sector recruitment, with lawmakers expressing readiness to amend the existing law to address persistent imbalances. The inquiry, spearheaded by the Senate Committee on Federal Character, aims to scrutinize how federal ministries, departments, and agencies have complied with constitutional provisions mandating equitable representation of all regions in federal appointments. Speaking during the opening session, the committee chairman issued a warning to chief executive officers and heads of invited agencies, cautioning that failure to appear before the panel would attract punitive measures. Lawmakers underscored that the growing discontent over lopsided recruitment patterns must be addressed through legislative reforms. They vowed to amend with the Federal Character Act to make it more enforceable and reflective of current realities. The probe, led by Senate Committee on Federal Character, drew representatives from various government agencies, including the Nigeria Customs Service, to answer questions about their recruitment processes. The Senate has confirmed the appointment of 5 resident electoral commissioners submitted by President Bola Tinubu in March for the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC). This confirmation followed the receipt and consideration of a report by the chairman of the Senate Committee on Electoral Matters during plenary. Presenting the report on behalf of the committee, Senator Simon Lalong urged the Senate to confirm the nomination of 5 individuals as resident electoral commissioners for the Independent National Electoral Commission, having passed the screening exercise. The approved recs are Omar Gerba, Kano State; Saad Idris, Bauchi State; Chukwemeka Ibeziako, Anambra State; Omar Mukhtar, Borno State; and Johnson Tinikim, Bayelsa State. Tinubu had on Monday sworn in 2 newly appointed INEC commissioners. The Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Kudirat Kekere-Ekun, has hinted that Nigeria's judiciary will soon be out of the woods, which has characterized its smooth operations in the recent past. Justice Kekere-Ekun stated that the challenges ranging from delays in justice delivery, dwindling public confidence, and resource constraints confronting the judiciary under her watch are resolvable. The CJN gave the hope in Abuja at a valedictory court session in honor of the late Justice of the Supreme Court, Justice Emmanuel Ogwegbu, who died on October 28, 2024, at the age of 91. She said the late Justice's life enriched Nigerian law with experience, compassion, and wisdom, and further stated that his contributions will continue to illuminate the courts, and his legacy remains embedded in the moral and legal consciousness of the nation. The Ministry of Education has declared that there was no fraud uncovered in the student loan scheme. Minister of Education Tunji Alausa made this known at the end of a meeting held with Vice Chancellors, officials of the National Universities Commission, Nigerian Education Loan Fund, and the Federal Ministry of Education. Alausa also described the statements put up by the Independent Anti-Corrupt Practices Commission (ICPC) and other related offences as incorrect. Recently, the ICPC said it commenced a comprehensive investigation into alleged discrepancies surrounding the disbursement of student loans under the Nigeria Education Loan Fund. The Commission said its preliminary findings revealed that while the federal government released 100 billion for the scheme, only 28.8 billion naira was disbursed to students, leaving 71.2 billion naira unaccounted for. In a statement last Thursday by the ICPC spokesperson, Demola Bakari stated that its special task force immediately commenced investigations upon receiving the allegations. Meanwhile, the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, JAMB, has admitted that there were errors that affected the performance of candidates during the 2025 Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination held across different centres in the country. The registrar, Ishak Oloyede, who disclosed this during a media briefing in Abuja, also broke down in tears while admitting to the errors. He also announced that about 379,997 candidates in the just concluded academic exercise would retake the examination. Oloyede said the affected candidates will start getting text messages from the board starting tomorrow. This followed widespread complaints of technical glitches, unusually low scores, and alleged irregularities in the questions and the answers during the exercise. On the foreign scene, a British teenager has been arrested in Tbilisi, U.S. state of Georgia, on suspicion of drug offences. 18-year-old Bella Cooley from Billingham on Teesside, who had gone missing in Thailand, has been charged with illegally buying, possessing and importing large quantities of narcotics, including marijuana. Georgian police have said if found guilty, she could face up to 20 years in jail or life imprisonment. Cully did not speak during an initial hearing before she was sent to an all-female pre-trial detention facility in the city of Rustavi. To end the news, here's a summary of the major stories. A traditional ruler in Ogbaland has decried the rising kidnapping cases in Nigeria. Rights groups have demanded justice for victims of an alleged billion-naira real estate fraud in Mary State. You heard that the Senate has launched an investigative hearing into the implementation of the federal character principle. And on the foreign team, we told you that police have arrested a British teenager for drug offences in the U.S. Ifunaya Obeme Ndukwe edited the news. For comments and inquiries, please call 0818-389-2850. Send your emails to news@todayfmlive.com. Read our stories on www.todayfmlive.com. I am Amaka Felix. Thank you for listening. Good evening.
Today's news, today's entertainment, today's sports, today's issues. Today on Today 95.1 FM, Port Harcourt.
Wake up to today's quest.
Welcome to take you through the ever-exciting world of sports.
Today's quest on Today 95.1 FM, the news super review segment.
You should pay them. Why not pay them so that the legislature can function effectively?
The law governing those people allows them to create a multi-door.
I won't use your vehicle. This one that they are giving to us to Assembly 600 million. I'm not coming there because I want to chop that peck. No.
Just calm down, okay? Everything is going to be all right if you believe. Welcome to the show. Entertainment today, right?
Let's engage on today's hustle.
Welcome to Talk That Talk on Today. No, there's nothing to sugarcoat. If you go to the street, that's where you can get the true report. It's not on newspaper or wherever.
Because I see no reason why people have been suffering like this. And they are bringing IGR, they are bringing...
And then welcome to today's Sport Live.
There are people that are scared of the dark.
Nigerian League champions can overturn.
So they've considered 5 goals away from home, and at their home ground, they've not been able to score. So he talked about not...
Welcome to the platform on radio.
Okay, America is the standard, right?
It is happening in America.
Hold on, America is... Hold on now. America is the standard.
Yes, okay. They are the fathers of democracy now. Who brought democracy?
No, they are not the fathers of waiting. They happen. You give them that the way you talk to. Will they give anybody what they do well? Nah, this is a monkey man. This monkey man.
And just when you think we are done, come on with us. Let's interact on today's Connect.
Is it free? I want to know. Is Ikwere Road free? I want to know. Traffic situation on the road. But this is Area Talk on Today 95.1 FM, your eyewitness report show.
Last week, you hear anything like that? This woman don't make arrest with me. I carry my eyes, see them there.
The gist, we go to play, we go to catch cruise, we go to enjoy ourselves because all work and no play.
I don't know why we're taking this serious. Is there any law that they have passed in this country?
It is. Let me tell you.
Today 95.1 FM. We are your perfect companion from dawn to dusk. Every day. Every day.
Tune in for a journey beyond the ordinary.
Fasten your seatbelts.
We're not just a station.
We are the station.
Today, 95.1 FM, the voice of the people.
In their boots, and they will not charge them because they are collecting bribe.
When they go collect salary, then go say government need to pay them bribe.
All these taxi drivers safe. They don't even get papers. Even driver's license safe. They no get.
No, you back there. Hold on there.
Their cars are in bad shape, very, very bad shape. They have no ethics of driving. That is why they will continue to bribe so that they can have their way.
I will shoot you now. I will shoot you. Headlight, you no get. Side mirror, you no get. Motorway to where carry animal. Now you take put for road to carry human being. You don't even wind the motor when rain they fall. You no get conscience at all.
You give them that thing where you talk to. Who they give anybody where they do well. Nah, this monkey man.
You don't even wind the motor when rain they fall. You no fit even wind the motor when rain they fall. You no get conscience at all. Take, you be number 15, you be number 5. More than no forget on a number.
Let's allow them to do their job.
Do not obstruct justice by giving or taking bribe. Avail yourself a check. Even you, Oga driver, stop reckless driving and always update your papers. This information
is brought to you by Today 95.1 FM.
Voice of the people.
Hey, you want to speed drive? Come on, go to the racetrack. You want to smoke? Not on the steering wheel. You want to drink alcohol? Don't do it on wheels. Go to a bar and don't drive afterwards. Seatbelts are not for fancy. They're there to save your life. Know your traffic rules and obey them because they're for your own good. Drive with care because life is dear.
Your premium talk news and sports radio station, Today 95.1 FM. The news update on the headlines. Police confirms attack by hoodlums in a community last night, leaving few dead and many injured.
No. I don't want kill again. I don't tire. If I may ask, these are Baba, where their children they safe. If not good thing, they for don't involve their children for this kind of matter. Me, I don't want carry gun again. I don't tire. I know they carry gun again. Don't be by force. Make their children can't carry the gun.
Enough is enough. How long are we going to blame our government? We must agree to have a healthy society, a society that protects the weak while creating opportunities for the strong. Together, we can make this work. Let's give peace a chance. This information is brought to you by Today 95.1 FM, the voice of the people.
This is your premium talk radio. Today 95.1 FM.
This is Today 95.1 FM Pawtucket, Voice of the People. It is time again for a rundown of the foreign news stories that made the headlines on the world today. I am Amaka Felix. In the headlines, Libya's Prime Minister asserts control after deadly violence. UN raises alarm over Egypt's proposed criminal procedure code. Federal grand jury indicts U.S. judge of charges on obstruction of proceedings. Iraq frees over 19,000 prisoners under new amnesty law. Details in a bit. Libya's United Nations recognized government in the west of the country has begun asserting control following the reported killing of powerful militia leader Abdelghani al-Kikli. The Emergency Medicine and Support Center confirmed that it had retrieved 6 bodies from the Tripoli neighborhood of Abu Salim yesterday after heavy fighting erupted across the capital the previous night. A senior government and health official said the fighting stemmed from the killing of al-Kikli, commander of the Stability Support Authority (SSA), on Monday by a rival militia during a meeting at the 444 Brigade's base, a group loyal to Prime Minister Abdul Hamid Dbeibah. Al-Kikli had been accused by Amnesty International of war crimes and other serious rights violations over the past decade. The United Nations Human Rights Office has expressed concerns over Egypt's proposed amendments to its Code of Criminal Procedure as it calls for greater transparency and alignment with international human rights standards as the legislation awaits presidential approval. UN Human Rights Office spokesperson Tamin Al-Khitan, who spoke in Geneva, highlighted several troubling elements of the draft law. He raised concerns over provisions of the law that will grant public prosecutors broad discretionary powers related to pre-trial detention, interception of communications and travel bans. Al-Khitan stressed that the proposed changes also risk undermining fundamental legal safeguards, particularly the right to effective legal representation and accountability for public officials, warning that the law would also impact the right to effective legal representation. The UN Human Rights Office, however, urged the Egyptian president to reconsider the bill with a critical eye and carefully review the proposed criminal procedure code in light of the concerns to ensure it fully complies with Egypt's international human rights obligations. A U.S. court has significantly reduced the defamation payout awarded to Ghanaian investigative journalist Anas Aremayo Anas, slashing it from $18 million to $500. This happened after the original damages were ordered by a jury in March after finding that former Ghanaian MP Kennedy Agyapong had defamed Anas by branding him a criminal and linking him to a 2019 murder of fellow journalist Ahmed Suale. However, a New Jersey judge ruled the amount was excessive and legally unsustainable following an appeal from Agyapong's legal team. But despite a reduction, Anas had stated that he would appeal the new decision as his media group, Tiger IPI, had previously stated that the lawsuit was about defending reputation rather than financial gain. Anas, who is known for wearing face masks to conceal his identity, has built a reputation for undercover investigations into corruption. Away from Africa to the rest of the world, the administration of United States President Donald Trump has slashed another $450 million in grants from Harvard University. President Trump accused Harvard, the country's oldest university, of perpetrating a long-standing policy and practice of discriminating on the basis of race. The Presidential Task Force explained that the slashing of grants came in addition to the more than $2.2 billion in federal funds that were already suspended last week. Still in the U.S., United States President Donald Trump has announced that he will lift all sanctions on Syria after declaring that it was time for the country to move forward. Trump, who made this announcement while speaking at an investment forum in Saudi Arabia's Riyadh during his Middle East tour, said the corrective measures had achieved their purpose and were no longer needed. The announcement marks a dramatic shift in Washington's year-long policy towards Syria, where sanctions targeted ousted President Bashar al-Assad's government during years of war and the country at large over its crackdown on dissent and human rights abuses during a nearly 14-year period. Trump had noted that U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio will meet Syria's Foreign Minister Assad al-Shaibani in Turkey this week, adding that his declaration to end the sanctions was influenced by conversations with Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. Also, a judge in the United States has been indicted by a federal grand jury on charges of concealing a person from arrest and obstruction of proceedings after she was accused of helping an undocumented migrant evade authorities. Milwaukee County Circuit Court Judge Hannah Dugan was arrested last month after prosecutors said that she hindered the Immigration and Customs Enforcement (ICE) agents who showed up to arrest the man without a judicial warrant outside her courtroom. Prosecutors alleged she tried to help Eduardo Flores Ruiz and his lawyer leave the courtroom from the back jury door before his arrest outside the building. Dugan will face up to 6 years in prison if she's convicted on both counts. One of Dugan's lawyers, Craig Mastantuono, said Dugan asserted her innocence, adding that she is looking forward to being vindicated in court. However, court documents suggest that Dugan was alerted that the immigration agents appeared in the court's hallway by her clerk. In an affidavit, Dugan was described as visibly angry over their arrival and called the situation absurd before leaving the bench and returning to her chambers. The United Kingdom's government is facing a High Court challenge over the export of F-35 jet components used by Israel. Co-claimants Al-Haq, a Palestinian rights organization at the Global Legal Action Network, GLAN, are behind the case. A lawyer with GLAN and the legal firm Bindmans, representing Al-Haq, said they are in court to try to force the government to stop supplying F-35 components to Israel. The 4-day case began yesterday as Israel's onslaught in Gaza continues with the aid of F-35 jets, having already killed more than 61,700 people. Al-Haq and GLAN argue that the government is breaking domestic and international law through a loophole by allowing the parts to be supplied to Israel through the Global Spares Pool and the F-35 partner countries. A man who spent nearly 4 decades in a British prison for the killing of a barmaid said he was not angry or bitter as his murder conviction was overturned and he was released after being exonerated by DNA evidence. 68-year-old Peter Sullivan was freed after the court in London determined that new evidence found on the victim's body showed that he was not the defendant of the murder. His lawyer told reporters that the case is an unprecedented and historic moment, stating that their client is the longest-serving victim of a miscarriage of justice in the UK. Sullivan, who wept as the judges dismissed his conviction, said in a statement read outside the court by his lawyer that despite spending years in jail, he was not angry or bitter, but added that he lost his liberty for 40 years over a crime he did not commit. Sullivan was arrested in 1986, a month after 21-year-old Diane Sindel was found dead in Babington, near Liverpool in northwest England. Sean Diddy Combs' former girlfriend, the R&B singer Cassie, told a jury that the music mogul abused and sexually exploited her for years. Cassie, who took the witness stand for the first time during P. Diddy's sex trafficking trial in New York, recounted feeling compelled by Combs to participate in lengthy freak-off sex parties involving male sex workers. She said Combs assaulted her numerous times during their turbulent relationship. She said it was difficult to refuse Combs' demands because of fears of violence and blackmail videos from the freak-offs being disseminated on the internet. Cassie, whose legal name is Cassandra Ventura, sued Combs in 2023, alleging years of abuse. The suit was settled within hours, but dozens of similar legal claims followed, sparking the criminal investigation. However, an attorney for Combs, Tenny Geragos, said in opening statements on Monday that Combs' accusers were after his money, adding that jurors might think he's a jerk and might not condone his kinky sex, but that he's not charged with being a jerk. Iraq has released more than 19,000 prisoners under a sweeping amnesty law designed to relieve pressure on its overcrowded prison system. The move offers legal reprieves to some individuals convicted on terrorism-related charges. The law has also halted all executions, including for former ISIL members. The amnesty law, enacted in January, allows certain prisoners convicted of belonging to armed groups to seek release, a retrial, or have their cases dismissed. However, those found guilty of killings linked to extremism are excluded from eligibility. Russia has again declined to say whether President Vladimir Putin will travel to Turkey for planned negotiations with Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelensky, amid growing international pressure on Moscow to hold direct talks and end its three-year war. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov told reporters that Russia would disclose the makeup of its delegation to Turkey once Putin gave the order. He said the Russian delegation will be waiting for the Ukrainian delegation in Istanbul on May 15th. Peskov said he would provide an update when they get the relevant instructions from the president, but added that no instructions have been received yet. Former Olympic cyclist and world champion Rohan Dennis has received a suspended sentence over what was termed a tragic accident that led to the death of his wife, fellow Olympian Melissa Hoskins. The 34-year-old appeared in South Australia District Court after an earlier charge of committing an aggravated act likely to cause harm. Dennis was arrested after Hoskins was struck by his vehicle in front of their home at Medindie in Adelaide's North on December 30, 2023. Hoskins suffered serious injuries in the crash and died at Royal Adelaide Hospital. The court was told that the couple had argued over kitchen renovations before Dennis left their home and drove away. The court also heard that Hoskins had jumped onto the hood of the car during the incident. The sentence was reduced from 2 years and 2 months because of his guilty plea, and he's been placed on a 2-year good behavior bond. His driver's license was also suspended for 5 years. That story from the former Olympic cyclist concludes tonight's edition of The World Today, as produced by Sandra Kenneth of the News Department. Before we go, here is a summary of the stories that made the headline. Libya's Prime Minister has asserted control over deadly violence. After deadly violence, we told you that the United Nations has raised alarm over Egypt's proposed criminal procedure code. You heard the federal grand jury has indicted a United States judge over charges of obstruction of proceedings. And finally, we told you that Iraq has freed over 19,000 prisoners under new amnesty law. Till same time tomorrow, do have a lovely evening, and thank you for listening.
Say no to the ordinary. Embrace the extraordinary, because we are the voice of the people. Voice of the people. Today, 95.1 FM.
Today, 95.1 FM.
Red is passion. Pink is for unconditional love. Blue is for loyalty. While black is secretive and mysterious.
Baby,
Let's talk about love. The passion, the bliss, the betrayal, and everything in between. On Lovey Dovey, Mondays to Thursdays from 11 p.m. beneath the night sky with the Amaka Felix on Today 95.1 FM.
Talk radio.
I listen to a lot of talk radio.
95.1 FM.
BBC World Service, I'm Audrey Brown in London with Focus on Africa. Why are medical practitioners on strike in Ethiopia?
My net salary is $52. That's my monthly payment. You can imagine that. And there is no other payment. This strike isn't just about salaries. It's about dignity, safety, and respect for health professionals.
We'll hear more from a doctor who says it's also about the patients. As the movie industry expands in Africa, so do concerns about the safety of actors. And we'll meet the young woman who is going where no other like her has gone before, on horseback.
I feel tent pegging teaches you life lessons, to be a team player, how to take accountability in life. The lessons you learn in tent pegging, you can use them in your day-to-day life. I think it's a great sport to be involved in.
That's all on the BBC Tonight in Focus. First, the news.
Hello, I'm Moira Alderson with the BBC News. President Trump has met the new Syrian leader Ahmed al-Sharaa during brief talks in Riyadh. The White House said Mr. Trump had urged the Syrian president to normalise ties with Israel. Damascus called the meeting historic, but made no mention of Israel. Sebastian Usher has more details.
Israel and Syria have been enemies for years and years and years, although quiet enemies, not fighting strongly against each other. Assad never really responded to all the attacks that Israel launched over the years. And Ahmed al-Sharaa has said the same. Essentially, he doesn't want conflict with Israel. Whether he would go beyond that, whether he can go beyond that, this is the big question. All of these countries, remember, not so long ago, the Saudis were looking like they might do a normalisation deal. So what hasn't been discussed is Gaza, which still stays at the root of all of this. And without a shift on that and a change on that, maybe some of the rhetoric we're seeing, some of the things that have been presented might not come to fruition in the way that people might want for the stability, not just of Syria, but the region.
Mr. Trump is now in Qatar, where he signed a series of deals. Diplomatic efforts are continuing ahead of possible face-to-face talks in Turkey on Thursday between President Zelensky of Ukraine and Putin of Russia. It's still not clear whether Mr. Putin will attend. President Trump has not ruled out going himself. Germany's Chancellor Friedrich Merz has said his government aims to create the strongest conventional army in Europe in his first speech to Parliament since taking office last week. Jessica Parker has this report.
Friedrich Merz promised to invest in Germany's ailing infrastructure and create a less bureaucratic, more nimble economy. And on the Middle East, he called on all sides to avert famine in Gaza, while reiterating Berlin's established policy of staunch support for Israel. Mr. Merz castigated Russia for its full-scale invasion of Ukraine, promising continued support for Kyiv. And ahead of Thursday's mooted peace talks in Turkey, Mr. Merz urged the West not to be divided.
Ethiopia's election commission has officially banned the main political party in the Tigray region. The TPLF led an uprising against the government nearly 5 years ago, sparking a civil war that left hundreds of thousands of people dead. Our correspondent, Kalkidan Yibotel, has more details from Addis Ababa.
The Election Commission said it had revoked the TPLF's legal status because it had failed to hold General Assembly. The TPLF has previously accused the Commission of disregarding a peace agreement it signed with the government by demanding that it registers as a new party. The TPLF dominated Ethiopia's national politics for decades until the current Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed came to power in 2018. The war that broke out in Tigray 2 years later claimed hundreds of thousands of lives. Growing tensions within the party as well as with the government in Addis Ababa have raised fears of a return to violence. Ethiopia is set to hold general elections next year.
Kalkitan Yibotel reporting. World News from the BBC. China has handed a suspended death sentence to the former chairman of one of its top computer chip makers. Jiao Weiguo ran the Tsinghua Unigroup, which spent billions of dollars acquiring smaller companies as part of China's drive to make advanced semiconductors. Chinese prosecutors say Mr. Jiao bankrupted the company by treating it like his private fiefdom. They accuse him of spending vast sums on real estate and gambling. Outbreaks of fighting have continued to flare in the Libyan capital, Tripoli, after days of clashes between rival factions. The Arab League has expressed alarm at the fighting. Tom Bailey has this report on the upsurge in violence.
Major battles broke out across Tripoli on Monday night, with the killing of a prominent militia leader in an ambush by another armed group. Residents in many areas were urged to stay indoors. On Wednesday morning, the Tripoli-based Government of National Unity declared that a ceasefire had come into force, but there have been reports of further clashes. The Arab League has expressed alarm at the violence, which it said had terrorised civilians and threatened the lives of the city's residents. It's joined the UN in calling for calm. Libya has been racked by instability since the ousting of the longtime autocrat Muammar Gaddafi in 2011.
India and Pakistan have exchanged prisoners 4 days after agreeing a ceasefire. India handed over a Pakistani ranger who had been detained earlier this month. In return, Pakistan freed a member of India's border force who's believed to have inadvertently crossed the border in Punjab 3 weeks ago. The Nigerian international footballer Taiwo Uwaniyi is in an induced coma after undergoing surgery on a serious abdominal injury he sustained during an English Premier League match on Sunday. The striker collided with a goalpost during a 2-2 draw between his team, Nottingham Forest, and rivals Leicester City. He's due to undergo further surgery on Wednesday. That's the latest. BBC News.
Hello, I'm Audrey Brown, and today in Focus on Africa, why are medical practitioners on strike in Ethiopia? We'll hear from a doctor that it's not just about pay.
More than any profession, it's sacrifices and it's a stressful environment to work. Patient treatment needs a huge dedication. So I don't think that people truly understand our condition.
As the movie industry expands in Africa, so do concerns around the safety on set and off of those whose work it is to entertain, delight and educate us. And we'll meet the young woman who is going where no other like her has gone before, on horseback. Tent pegger Kosi Lomo has been telling me about her animals.
The one's name is Shadida and the other one's name is Baloo. Being the first black in tent pegging, it is a huge honor. It does feel quite surreal. At first, I did feel ostracized, if that's the word, but now I just feel very welcome.
And don't worry, we will tell you what tent pegging actually is. It's Wednesday, the 14th of May. First, we go to Ethiopia. They're chanting justice for healthcare workers, and it's echoing through hospital corridors and the city streets of Ethiopia. Health professionals are warning that they will continue their strike if the government doesn't respond to their demands for better pay, fair treatment, and safer working conditions. This nationwide campaign is gaining momentum, and the doctors say their patience is running out. I've been speaking to Mahlet Gush Gebreweld, an anatomic pathologist who has had to work outside of Ethiopia due to bureaucracy, bad working conditions, and even worse pay. But before we hear from Mahlet, let's listen to some of the other doctors who are on strike as well.
Currently, why we're striking is due to the working conditions that we are facing, which begins with a salary that is not commensurate with the level of risk that we take and the complexity of managing patients within our healthcare system. Currently, the way I see the government's handling of the strike is at once heavy-handed with harassment of healthcare workers throughout the country, as well as arrests. With each additional day this goes on, trust will continue to further erode between us and the Ministry of Health.
My net salary is $52. That's my monthly payment. You can imagine that. And there is no other payment. Some hospitals haven't paid the overtime payment for more than a year. The subspecialists who spent more than 25 years of their life dedicated for medicine are being paid less than $100. This strike isn't just about salaries. It's about dignity, safety, and respect for health professionals.
And now to Mahlet. Why does she support the strike?
There is insufficient resource health system in our country. Regarding patient management, we have poor supply of medicine still, especially in the oncology department like ours, pathology. We have these major problems that has not been changed for decades. Similar questions has been raised years back, but the changes were given are very less, and we have the same financial crisis. We couldn't afford our housing, rental payment, and transportation. So we couldn't afford anymore to live by paying this, and we have difficulty to survive with the economic change that government has made in the past few months.
What happened in the last few months that made doctors take this step? You say that these conditions have been like this for years. Why now to do something about it?
spontaneous occurrence. There is no exact association or trust that given and that make us emotional and do this movement. But like as I told you, in the past 8 months or maybe more, there is huge difference in the market. Everything has increased in the country, but our wage, our salary is still the same. So we couldn't afford anymore to live like this. We are having a huge crisis to do our job, to go to our workplace. We don't have transportation. And we all agree with that concept of making a change in the health system.
So whenever doctors and nurses go on strike, people always ask, but what about the patients? They are suffering. So I'm asking you, what about the patients? They suffer when you go on strike.
Doctors and nurses who are doing their job in the emergency department, we didn't close the emergency department. It is the cold case and medical outpatient departments that are not giving services at this moment during the strike. But we have said so many times, we have asked similar questions months back, and since the schedule of strike was told like a month back, that still there is no adequate answer from the government. Of course, the patients will be harmed, but since the government is not answering our questions to make a pressure, as long as the emergency and critical cases are handled, the cold cases will be fine according to our scenario.
It seems like you're saying, well, the government hasn't answered adequately. We need more money, better pay, etc. The patients are going to have to suffer till that happens.
With the system, already the patients are being harmed. We have a poor supply of medicine and systems to the patients. I can give you from my practice, we have a lot of cancer patients. For years, there is no change in the treatment supply of cancer patients. So patients wait for a year or more to get the treatment. So already the system is killing and harming the patients. We need to confirm we will get an answer. The system is already killing suffering patients at the same time. Unless I try to solve that problem by taking a risk, as long as I see there is no change that's coming. So until we see a change, we will continue the movement.
What do people say about the doctors on strike in Ethiopia? Do they support the doctors?
Somehow they support. They know we have a low salary. They are understanding we have a difficulty with the system, and they ask us what's going on and so on. But at the same time, I don't think they understand the consequence of a broken system. If we continue like this, the government doesn't change the system, the consequence of our actions, like if doctors change their profession or if doctors leave the country, they don't truly understand this problem. So we have more than any profession made sacrifice, and it's a stressful environment to work. Patient treatment needs a huge dedication, focus. So I don't think the people truly understand our condition. Most of them, they be strong, don't give up. Someday you'll have a bright light. So please just try your best to do good things to the patient. That's what they say. They just support us psychologically, but no one or even media give it a huge attention about our problems.
Are there discussions or a compromise, a way out of this strike between government, Department of Health, and the doctors?
Yesterday, the Minister of Health, she just gave her own interview. Otherwise, until this moment, I haven't heard any form of compromise or negotiation that's being made between doctors, health professionals, and the government.
Marlet Gush Gebreweld, an anatomic pathologist. The film industry in most parts of Africa is still in its infancy, but it is a fast-growing infant, so we delight in its expansion, commenting about the performances, the production values, the conversations and posts about their private lives. But the industry is not just about the glamour in front of the cameras. It is also a workplace, and as such, it needs to be a safe place to work in, and that is not always the case. Actors have been known to be injured and even killed while trying to bring fictional stories to life. 2 Nigerian actors died while filming recently. And a year ago, the beloved actor and producer Junior Pope died while working. I've been exploring the dangers and difficulties actors face with Nigeria's Doris Okori and the Ghanaian actress Clara Benson, who is also known as Mame Serwa. So Doris, shall we start with you? And you tell us about your experience while filming on a set.
So this happened about 2 months ago in March. I had wrapped from a set, wrapped pretty late. And where we were filming, it's actually quite difficult to get cabs, especially when it's getting late like that. So I got a cab. So this guy drives out of the estate and then he wanted to take a right turn instead of a left turn. And I'm like, you're supposed to take a left turn. And then he was supposed to drive into the express. And the way he joined the express, he just like went right in. And I'm like, okay, what's going on? But luckily for me, I always have like a pepper spray with me. So I'm looking for my pepper spray. And I'm trying to have a conversation with this young man to know where his head is at. And then he increases the volume of the radio set. He reduces it. And I'm like, what is going on? So I start to have a conversation with him. And then, because I was seated at the back, and then he says to me, oh, put on your seatbelt. And I'm like, okay, I'm at the back seat. I don't really need my seatbelt. And then this guy starts to speed on the express. Before I could say Jesus is Lord, this guy had rammed into a car on the right. And then he swerved to the left, hit the curb. The car almost tumbled. And then he slowed down. After he had slowed down, of course, I started to scream. I'm like, drop me off. Oh my God, drop me off. And then he speeds up again. And then I had to just open the door and jumped right out of the moving vehicle.
My goodness.
Crossed the express. I didn't look left. I didn't look right because I saw a bank. So I just figured there's a bank there. There might be security there. When I jumped out of the car, so there was a guy coming from the pedestrian bridge. There were two other guys from behind me. And I'm like, okay, wait, was this all planned?
So you're terrified from the speeding, from the accident, and you're thinking that you're being kidnapped, and now you're thinking that this is a planned situation. Were you hurt from the crash?
Well, I had like a whiplash. So my neck, my right area, and then my thigh down from my right area, my leg. You know, I sit on the floor. I'm calling the line producer. He was almost home. He was also frantic, so he had to call someone. They were almost at the holding area for the crew, so they had to turn around to come get me. They got me and they took me home.
Let's listen to Clara. Clara, what experiences have you had? I hope not as terrifying as what happened to Doris.
Okay, so my experience is about water bodies and spiritual safety. So shooting near rivers and lakes in some Ghanaian villages isn't just risky, it's spiritual too. So I quite remember we had a shoot near Isekre River, and the elders told us it was guided by river gods. Before filming, we need to pour libations, seek permission and protection. This isn't really like superstition. It was a real culture, respect, and we needed to do that, and also seek spiritual safety nets. And also one time, I'm really terrified of snakes. When we go on set, live animals are used for props. And you know, live animals on sets aren't just for props, they are unpredictable beings. So we had a scene involving a dog and a snake. As I said, I'm terrified of snakes. So the lead character, I was a supporting role, and the guy got bitten by the dog. And we had to break and just go and see that he is okay before we can even continue. And it took us 3 weeks to come back on set.
What about you and the snake? Did you have to handle the snake?
Okay, so I read the script and they improvised one scene that I need to shoot with the snake. I was contemplating on using the snake for even that shoot. So they talked me through it. They said that he's being sedated. I don't know, but there was the owner of the animal on set. So they convinced me that, it's being taken care of. There's no teeth there to even bite the person and all that. So that was when I got comfortable enough to even shoot a scene with that snake.
Are you guys insured as actors?
No.
Do you think that things will get better? Clara, you answer first.
So sometimes our producers just take things so lightly. They need to put in effort, because some producers will even go on sets and want to even take 2 days to finish a whole movie because they are losing money, which is wrong.
So it's money motivated more than the health concerns of the people and the safety. Doris, what do you think?
Yeah, same thing. I agree. The EP might have actually said, okay, what do you need? They will say they need everything. The EP might provide the money for everything, but there's just someone somewhere not doing what they're supposed to do.
That was Doris Okori and Clara Benson, also known as Ma Mesera, both highly respected actors in Nigeria and Ghana, respectively. Emeka Rolas is the president of the Actors Guild of Nigeria. What steps are being taken within the film industry to enhance the safety and protection of actors across the continent?
First of all, I want people to know how the movie industry is formed. It's a collective arrangement. But for us, in Actors Guild of Nigeria, after the death of Junior Pope, we took it upon ourselves to come up with laws that we call bylaws as it is relating to safety. And we have ordered all members to ensure that in any set they are, they must look for specific signs to prove that the producer has their interest at heart. Once you look for those indicators and you are not able to locate anyone positively, you have to return back to the guild and we send our task force to stop that production. So we have started a Pan-African conversation already on royalties and collective bargainings. And then maybe when we are done with that, we also push for safety. Part of what we discussed in the International Labour Organization's conference in South Africa was also having decent work environment. And of course, you cannot have decent work environments without also including safety of practitioners and performers, as it were. So we are getting up gradually. When we are done with this particular event in South Africa, we'll make a push to the African Union to include majority of all our postulations in their 2063 agenda to better the African continent.
That's Emeka Rolas, president of the Actors Guild of Nigeria. Now for something completely different, something I've never heard of. It's called tent pegging. And there is a 19-year-old young woman in South Africa who is going where no one like her has gone before on horseback. Makhosazana, or Khosi Dlomo, is South Africa's only black competitor in tent pegging, a traditional and thrilling form of equestrian sport typically dominated by white middle-class riders. She's also believed to be the only registered black woman competitor in sub-Saharan Africa. She represented South Africa in Jordan earlier this year, making her mark as the sole black woman rider at an international competition in the Middle East. But what is tent pegging exactly? I mean, we've seen horse racing, we've seen dressage, we've seen show jumping, but tent pegging? We'll hear the official definition from Khosi shortly, but I'm told that it is an ancient cavalry sport which requires a unique mix of courage, control, and precision. For Khosi, though, a love of tent pegging started early and came along with a love of horses.
The first time I got onto a horse, I was 8 years old. It was at a friend's birthday party, and it was really cool just being on top of another animal, and I just really enjoyed it. I remember after the birthday party, I begged my mom to let me start horse riding.
And did you just feel immediately that this is the thing you wanted to do? Or did you think, oh, I want to do this again, not necessarily projecting into the future?
I think I just wanted to do it again for fun. I would have never thought that I would be doing it as a sport and as a hobby. So yeah, if you'd asked me at 8 years old that I'm riding horses as a sport, I would have laughed at you probably.
What was your interaction with horses before that? Had you seen sort of horse racing on television?
Not really. I know at home my mom would never let me ride a horse because she had bad experiences with the horse. So I think that birthday party was the first time I got to experience a horse in person and ride a horse.
So when was the next time you got onto a horse?
That birthday party, I was in grade 2, so in grade 3 is the following time I got on a horse with the same lady. Her name's Deline Bexa, where the birthday party was held.
And then let's fast forward to when you started riding seriously and became involved in something called tent pegging. What is that?
Well, the best I can explain tent pegging, I get my answer from the ITPF website, basically the International Tent Pegging Federation. Tent pegging is an ancient cavalry sport, and the term tent pegging is related to the idea that the cavalries attack enemy camps on their galloping horses using spears or swords to uproot tent pegs, which causes tents to collapse. But today, tent pegging as a sport includes a similar imitation of the discipline in which a mounted equestrian rider, we ride the horses at a gallop gait using our sword or lance to pick up a peg in the ground.
So it's basically got to do with warfare. Does that excite you?
At first it did scare me, but now it does give me like an adrenaline rush.
So how did you get into it? Because it's, as you were saying earlier, it's really niche.
Yeah. As I mentioned, when I was 8, that birthday party, it was held on like a horse riding farm, like they teach kids horse riding on that farm. So after the birthday party, my mom contacted the friend's mom and asked for the contact details of my coach now, Adeline Baxter, and asked if I could do lessons. And obviously when I started lessons, I thought I was just going to do horseback riding, not tent pegging. But as the months went on, my coach introduced me to tent pegging, and I just fell in love with the sport.
So describe what it's like being the only black person, young woman, doing this. I mean, it's quite a big deal, isn't it? Or when you look around, you see other people on horses, and it doesn't matter whether they're black or not.
Being the first black in tent pegging, it is a huge honor. It does feel quite surreal, like when people bring it up. When I'm horse riding, though, it's not that I don't pay attention. At first, I did feel ostracized, but now I just feel very welcomed in the community of tent pegging. And I do, like, when I see other black people riding horses, it does lift my spirits because, I really want it to be a welcoming sport. Like, it doesn't matter what race, what gender you are, like, you should feel welcomed in anything.
And does the sport make people feel welcome? Does it invite people in? Because, I mean, owning a horse is quite an expensive thing. You have to have the space to keep the horse. You have to have the money to feed the horse, keep the horse healthy and so on.
Yeah, I do feel very welcomed. Like, other riders are very welcoming of me. And with tent pegging, I always say, like, horse riding is an expensive sport, regardless of what discipline you do. But I do feel tent pegging is one of the more affordable equestrian sports.
In what way?
Compared to others.
Because actually I was also just thinking, so how do you win in tent pegging? Like in football you score a goal. In dressage you jump over, obstacles and so on. Horse racing you race to the finish line and you come first, second or third. How do you win in tent pegging?
The interesting thing about tent pegging, it's a team sport. So as much as you can win as an individual, you also win as a team. And the team consists of 4 people. But as an individual to win, you just have to get the highest score. In tent pegging, how we keep score is if you carry a peg, that's 6 points. If you just take it out of the ground, that's 4 points. And if you leave a mark, it's 2 points. So as the competition goes on, the judges tally up your score, and the full score is 192. So the rider that has 192 or the highest score is the best man for the day.
Well, woman in this case.
Yeah.
And how long does it last? How long does a match last?
It really depends on the number of riders. Like when I do an at-home competition back at KZN, it's not more than 3 hours, 2 hours, depending on how long the breaks are in between. But at SA Champs, that can last up to 3 days.
Makhosazana Khosi Dlobo, and we wish her all the very best. Focus on Africa was delicately stitched together by Bella Hassan and Yvette Twagira Maria in London. Blessing Aderogba brought Herbert from Lagos. Kani Sharp is our senior journalist, and Chris Kuzaris, the technical producer. Andre Lombard and Alice Mudengi are our...
I've been on my own for long enough. Maybe you can show me how to love. Maybe I'm going through a drought. You don't even have to do too much. You can turn me on with just a touch.